Hey there, Bruce, and welcome back to Game of Fortune. It is finally time for us to head on in to our second game. And we are going in with Lilith and Laura. Hey, you all done chatting over there? The next doors have opened up. Oh, guess we lost track of time. Guess that's what happens when you talk about these weird thought experiment kind of things, huh? Yeah, that's what makes them so fun. You can get lost in your head just thinking about them. Well, I guess I can't deny that it was somewhat interesting, even if I don't agree with a large amount of the premise. Anyway, we ought to get going, shouldn't we, Maria? Yep, let's get a move on. Well, looks like it's that time again. A trial of life and death, a chance to show my dedication and indomitable spirit. Well, as long as you got that, then chances are you're going to get pretty far. I'm glad you agree. We didn't even talk that long, but you know that I'm a man of action. Well, you do like to talk a lot, so... Men of action can be talkative as well. In my experience, a lot of them tend to just talk and not act at all. You'll see that I'm a fair exception. Anyway, we're off, folks, so we'll be seeing you. Good luck and good fortune to the rest of you. Try not to miss us too much. The other four walked through the door and left Richard, Lilith, Laura and me alone. Only one way out. I hope they do okay. Laura, you should know that we should be hoping for some of them to die, right? The more of them that die, the less likely any of us will. I know that. That doesn't mean I can't hope that maybe some of them make it out okay, right? I think that's fair. It feels weird to root for someone to die after all. Exactly, I just want for us to survive, is all. I know that's stupid and impossible at this point, but I just hate the idea of there being more death. Lilith let out a heavy sigh and walked over toward one of the couches in the lounge. She probably wasn't in the mood to try and assuage her sister's fears at the moment, especially since sooner or later they'd have to play a game for their own survival. Laura didn't linger longer and eventually sat beside her sister, leaning against her for support on the couch. And with nothing better to do, Richard and I lounged on one of the couches as well. So, what were you talking about with Jade and Alphonse, Laura? Oh, well, nothing really in particular. I wasn't talking much at all, I was just watching and listening. Alphonse was asking some questions out of Jade, stuff like why he was here and what his plans were. And he didn't mind that you were listening in? Not really. It's not like they were talking about anything really secretive. Jade said that he was here to make up for a mistake in his past, to save someone that he cared about. It's inspiring to see him so passionate about wanting to save someone. It's romantic. Oh dear God, please don't tell me you're falling for that dolt. I'm just saying that it's charming. Ugh. What about you three? You seemed to be having some kind of argument earlier. More like a debate. I'll give Richard credit. While I don't agree with his ideas, he's thorough. Don't talk about me like I'm not here. That's a compliment. Take it or leave it. I guess I'll take it then. How'd you get into that sort of thing anyway? I doubt that most kids wouldn't learn much about philosophy growing up. Oh well, my father was a philosophy teacher, so part of it was just that he liked to talk to me about some of that stuff. But other times it was just because it was something to do in my free time. It's probably not hard to believe, but I used to spend a lot of time alone, so solitary pursuits like writing, painting and reading were common for me. Especially as a kid, I didn't really have an easy time getting along well with other children. You seem like such a nice gentleman. Oh, thank you. I like to think I was raised right. Either way, as a kid, I didn't really mesh well with most other people. I had a hard time making friends. A lot of other kids picked on me for being different, quiet, off. Fuck 'em. Kids are always manipulative little shits anyway. Lilith. What? I didn't say that your kids are. I'm just saying that kids really don't hold back sometimes when it comes to ostracizing others. Well, you don't have to get upset about it. I learned how to better fit in with time. It was just a small bump on the road and I learned to use a lot of my free time to pursue some of my other passions. So no need to worry that much about me. I'm managing just fine. How very mature of you. Is it really that mature? Lots of people have some troubled parts in their past. I don't think that I'm really that special for just adjusting to it. Yeah, I guess you're right about that. No one in the world has a perfect life. We've all got some weird life-changing bullshit that happened in our youth, right? If I could get more than one wish, I know for sure that I'd want to go back and change the past. Really? Life's full of regrets. Don't you have some event or some choice that you wish you could just jump back to and change if you could? I know that I would. Well, I can't deny that the idea is tempting, but I'm not sure what kind of life I'd even have or live if I could go back and redo some choice. It'd have to be something really terrible, otherwise I'm not really sure I'd do it. Really? I think most people would jump at the opportunity. Yeah, but what about all the people and events that happened in your life because of the mistakes you've made? There are all sorts of ripple effects. I'm not saying that they might all be bad or good, but it'd be a totally different reality. I'm not sure if I'm okay with knowing that I jumped from one ship to another. Again, it'd have to be something really bad, like if I killed someone who didn't deserve it or something. I guess that'd be as good a reason as any. I guess if I didn't get kicked out of college, I wouldn't have met Devon. I might have met all sorts of other people. Maybe I could have been a professional gamer, or maybe I just ended up working some normal job after graduating. But chances are that I would have never met Devon. She'd also still be alive. I guess it's nothing but a fantasy. People are always full of regrets. If you gave that kind of power to anyone, I bet they'd use it. I know I sure as hell would. Same. You would too, right, Richard? Yeah, I mean, there aren't many regrets I have in my life. But there is one I have. Just one big one. You can't just say something like that and leave us hanging. Oh, I didn't... well, there was this guy and he killed someone in front of me. I wasn't able to stop him in time. I just froze up there. And then my dad, well, he got hurt too, and I just... Well, if I could go back in time, I'd stop the guy, but I can't. Richard let out a heavy sigh and looked down at the ground. Oh my goodness, that's horrible. Murder is a pretty horrible thing, yeah. So what, some bastard murdered someone in front of you? Yeah, my dad tried to save a woman, but it was too late. Then the guy turned to stab him. I pulled my dad away, but I could see the bloodlust in that murderer's eyes. He would have butchered him just like he did that woman if he'd had a chance. I didn't see an ounce of compassion, kindness, or mercy in him. In his eyes, he was just... Yeah, pretty sure most murderers aren't those things. How'd you get through without getting killed? Luck, I guess. The guy got distracted with something else at the time. I got my dad to a hospital and, well, that was that. Shit, man, I'm sorry you and your dad had to go through that. It's alright. Everything's gonna be alright. We're gonna fix everything. My dad's gonna do his part. And as for me, He fell silent again and his lips pressed tightly against one another as a flash of anger washed over his face. I'll do my part as well. Why the hell are you acting all cryptic all of a sudden? Your emo outfit's starting to get the better of you. It's not emo, I just like dark colours. It's more of a goth look than anything. Same thing. It is not the same thing. Laura giggled as the two began arguing once again. The arguing was, well, it wasn't intense, it was almost more like playful banter. Even I could tell that Lilith was somewhat enjoying just bickering with Richard for a bit. As for Richard, well, he seemed to be doing fine. What an odd pair. Oh, the last door opened. That was fast. Maybe the last game was a quick one. That has to be the case, doesn't it? Well, it could be a good thing or a bad thing. Either it was something quick and bloody or it was quick and harmless. Well, let's go. There's no point waiting around. Right. We all stood up and walked to the open game door and prepared ourselves for the hell that awaited us once again. Same room as last time, huh? Seems like it. Guess Belle's not the type to mix things up if she doesn't have to. At least it's familiar. Things that are familiar are comfortable, after all. Not for me, exactly. Nothing's really comfortable about this. This is the last place of peace for Devon and I. I just have to press on. I just have to keep going forward. She wouldn't want me to be paralyzed with grief. I just have to keep going. I agree, Laura. Things that are familiar are very comfortable. Belle's face appeared on the television screen and we all turned to face her. You ever get that feeling when you come home from a long trip and it just feels wonderful? It's like that. You always get to come here after a game. Well, assuming you survive it, of course. What are the odds of surviving here, Belle? Some people have probably died already, right? Oh, Lilith, do you really think I'm going to tell you who's alive and who's dead right now? It would be useful. You had such an easy game last time. Now you want easy info too? You're so greedy. Yeah, so what? Greed kills, or so I've noticed. But you do know how the other groups have done, right? Of course I have. Their games are done after all. Save yours. Aren't you excited to play? Not sure if I'd say excitement is what I'm feeling right now. More like dread. Dread can be an excellent motivator as well. That intense lingering fear, you'd be amazed what a person scared for their life will do to survive. That's not something most of us want to go through. Well, if you can control your fear, then you won't have to worry about that. Now, let's get into the meat and potatoes. It's game time. First things first, let's see what game type we'll have. And thus the screen shifted to show the roulette once again. Last time it was a 3 versus 1 game, that tragedy that tore Devon and me apart. Here, it doesn't really matter what kind of game it is. I mean, technically, as long as one person can win and survive, that's all I need. I just need a way to survive, a way to press on. If I can win, then that's all that matters. And it seems that fate will have you playing a 4-player dilemma game. Imagine what kind of amazing things could happen here. It's good, right? Well, we've had that kind of game last time and we all came out scratch-free. So clearly it's possible. Well, first we'll have to come up with a game. Luckily for you, I've thought of something that'll really put you all to the test. We're going to play Silent Slaughter. That game does not inspire anything good. Belle simply let out an eerie laugh as if to blow away my concerns. Don't worry, there's going to be some good stuff coming along in the future. So should we just go through the door into the game room then? Not quite. I actually need you to be split up a bit. Split up? But this isn't a team game. Belle simply smiled at us, and then looked between each of us. The game requires for you to be split nonetheless. Richard, Clyde, please enter the door on the left. Laura, Lilith, you two go through the right. You'll get more instructions on the game once you enter. Until then, toodles. Belle disappeared off the screen and we all looked at one another with a brief confusion over her instructions. Well, at least you're not splitting us up. Let's go, Laura. Right. Laura and Lilith walked through the doors to the right, and Richard was already walking through the door on the left. I guess there was no real reason to hesitate, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was really off about this. This room. Why of all places did it lead here? Hey, you alright? Was this where your last game took place? Yes, goddamn this stupid chair and that damn screen. It was all right here, or at least in a place that looked like it was here. Belle's smug face popped up on the screen to taunt me. Don't worry, Clyde. This is a totally new and different game with different rules and win conditions. I'm not going to strap you to a chair and make you pick your poison, so to speak. Then why does this room look exactly like the last one I was in? Asset reuse. It's a great way to save time and money. I mean, why bother making a whole new room when this one will do just fine for the purposes I have? You're a god. Would it even be that much trouble to make a new room? Well, I mean, yeah, but let's not get too in-depth with the discussion. We don't need things to get meta, really. Besides, what's important is that I'm here to tell you the details about Silent Slaughter. Fine, but I'm not sitting in that chair. You don't have to, Clyde, but I'll advise that you listen up. Silent Slaughter is a delicate game of silence and nerves. It's called Silent Slaughter because if you talk at all, you die. So be sure to keep those lips zipped while you're playing. Sheesh, that's a hefty roll. It is, but silence is golden. To win, all you have to do is get 3 points. Simple, right? And how do we get 3 points? Easy. All you have to do is win a hand. You win a hand, you automatically get a point. Oh, and I should mention that the game only has 6 rounds, so you'll need to get those 3 points by then. And that's all you really need to know. That's it? You didn't tell us anything about the game or the rules. Sorry, busy setting things up properly. But if you want more details, I've left a little set of notes for you. When you're ready, enter into the game room through the next door. We'll see you soon. But... And the screen cut off before I could get another... Fucking... That was odd. Well, she said she left some kind of note for us, right? Maybe that'll clear some things up. I think this is it. Richard picked up some piece of paper that was on a nearby table and showed it to me. Let's see. These are extra notes on ways to play Silent Slaughter. Please pay attention to them, as they may determine whether you live or die. You will not be allowed to bring these notes into the game room. Great. Great start there. Each round begins by a team drawing 3 cards from the deck into their hand. The team that won the last round plays first, otherwise the team that entered into the game room first will play first. Gameplay is simple. One side will set a card face up in front of them, and the other team does the same. After both cards are placed face down, the card with the highest value wins. When you win a hand, take both cards over to your side of the table and set them away. It sounds exactly like war, except you get to pick your card instead of leaving it to chance. Seems like it. There's only a few other rules. Spade cards are trump cards and always beat other suits. In the event of a tie, the player that played a card last will win the hand. After 6 rounds of play, the game ends. If you believe your opponent is cheating, you press the red button on your side of the table to issue them a strike. If the other team accumulates 3 strikes, then they'll automatically lose the game. I guess it's a failsafe to prevent cheating. Seems like it. But that's it. Rules seem to be clear-cut and simple. Do you understand them all, Clyde? Yeah, I got it. I'm only asking because I'm not going to be able to talk about them once we enter the game room. I understand. Higher card wins. Winner plays first. We draw 3 cards from the deck. Spade are trump cards. Ties give the second player the win. If you break the rule, The other team can issue a strike against you. 3 strikes, you're out. You lose, you die. And the most important rule of all? Win? Richard brought his finger up to his lip. No talking. Right, don't worry, I understand. Alright, then let's win this thing. I don't know how a visual novel's going to work in a game room where you can't talk. Yeah. We both stopped talking and walked into the game room. Just one more game to win. All I have to do is win. When we entered the game room, we were split quite literally by a large pane of glass. Laura and Lilith were already sitting on seats on the other side. Laura silently waved while Lilith didn't bother to give each of us a glance. Belle was also on the other side, pointing for us to take a seat on our side of the table. Richard and I walked over and took our seats while Belle clapped her hands and a deck appeared in her hand. Welcome one and all to this sacred game of silent slaughter. I'll be your host, Belle. Each team has already read up on the notes that were in your respective rooms, correct? Her voice was echoing in our minds, or at least I assumed it was since her lips weren't moving and all I could hear her loud and clear. We all nodded and she started shuffling the deck in her hand before presenting it to Laura and Lilith. Great, well remember, all you have to do to win is get 3 hands. Should be easy. And in case you suspect foul play, each of you have a red button on your side of the table you can slam whenever someone isn't playing fair. I'll just be here to monitor the situation and enforce punishments where applicable. Good luck and good fortune. Belle stepped out of the way and left the deck on the table for Lilith and Laura. Lilith drew 3 cards out of the deck and then pushed the deck over toward our side through the small slot in the center of the glass. I pulled the deck toward our side and drew 3 cards from the deck. 7 of hearts, 2 of spades, king of diamonds. Well, we got a trump card, so immediately that's a good sign. And with the king of diamonds, well, they were a pretty powerful hand as well. I showed the cards over to Richard and he quickly gave them a glance before pointing toward the 2 of spades. He probably ought to use the trump card. He probably thought that using the trump card was the best move, which made sense. Still, it would depend on whatever card Lilith and Laura put down first. The two were looking over their own cards for a few seconds, pointing at their hand for a few seconds before looking expectantly at us. Were they expecting us to go first? But they were the first ones into the room, so they should have to play first, right? Actually, that's a bit strange. Based on the way the game is played, you'd rather go second than first. And by that logic, they should have wanted to enter later than sooner, right? I guess we didn't think that through ourselves, but... Lilith snapped her fingers a few times to grab my attention, then tapped them on the table. I guess she really wants us to go first. She's not going to penalise us for going first, is she? Does she have such a weak hand she's trying to trick us into making a misplay or something? Richard pointed toward the 2 of spades card again. I guess this is just the best play that we can muster for the time being. I hope this doesn't come back to bite me in the ass. I played the 2 of spades and pushed the card up toward the middle. Well, they weren't going for their button, so maybe they just didn't care about that roll? Or maybe it's more like they pressured me into playing first. Let out a soft sigh. If I end up in a loss for us, then I probably should have stuck with my guns. Lilith eventually placed a card down in front of her, the jack of diamonds. Well, that was still a win for us. I reached forward on the table and grabbed the 2 cards and pulled them to our edge of the table. Lilith huffed and Laura was quick to give her a reassuring pat on the shoulder. Then she looked over to us with a soft smile, though it was almost pleading. Despite losing, she still seemed to be hopeful. Richard turned with a soft frown and then motioned his head toward the others. Now that I think about it some more, it's not impossible for us both to win this game. The only win conditions would be that you won 3 hands and the game ends after 6 rounds. So that could be 3 for us and 3 for them. Right, okay, so as long as we cooperate, we should be fine. I felt a bit of weight fall off my shoulders, knowing that I wouldn't have to worry much about hurting or killing Lilith or Laura. Not that I really cared that much for them, but the less death the better. Either way, there could probably be some ways for us to coordinate without even speaking, so that we can make it so that we each win. What was I supposed to do with the leftover cards? I don't think the rules said anything about putting them away or discarding them. I guess I'll just shuffle them back into the deck. I carefully mixed the cards back into the deck before drawing 3 more cards and passing the deck over to Lilith and Laura. We drew 3 cards from the deck and then passed it over to Lilith and Laura. Ace of spades, 8 of clubs, 5 of clubs. Well, the ace of spades is an auto win, I think. I showed the card over to Richard and he nodded his head. Laura and Lilith drew their cards next and I looked between them. While they were inspecting their own cards, I played down the ace of spades in front of me. They both seemed shocked as they saw me place down the card and they looked at me curiously. I mimicked their confused expression. I didn't get why they seemed so startled, it was just a card. Maybe they were surprised I got the ace of spades? Eventually Lilith just shrugged and picked a card from her hand and placed it in front of her. The queen of clubs. Well, that's another win for us. I reached out to grab the cards, and Lilith did so too. We both looked incredulous at one another. Her hand was on top of mine and was digging deep to try and tug the cards back to her side. I wanted to curse, ask her what the hell she was doing. That'd probably get me killed, which is the last thing I want to do right now. Still, I was stronger, so I could probably pull the cards away onto our side. Or I could just let Lilith have the hand. Ultimately, it might be better just to let her have this one. Maybe she's feeling desperate. Time to save. Yeah, she can take it, I don't care. Maybe she got different rules to us, that's what I'm thinking. She wants the cards so badly? Fine, she can have them. I lifted my hand off the table and let her pull the cards over to her side. Well, now that she's got the cards... I pressed the red button on the corner of our table. Proper punishment. Just one strike for her and that'll keep her from acting out like that. Wait, were we just going to let her have it? Why are we punishing her now? She could look pissed at me as much as she wanted. It was her fault for cheating. This will keep her from making the same mistake again. Laura shook Lilith slightly, probably trying to get her to focus back on the game than glaring at me. Judging by how angry Lilith was looking, she'd probably take any and all opportunities to give me a strike if the opportunity presented itself. Why did we do that? Fine, it's no big deal. I just have to be careful, make sure that she doesn't end up having a reason. We waited for Lilith to shuffle the deck and draw her cards before shoving the deck through the slot back toward us. We added in our leftover cards and shuffled the deck again before drawing our cards. The 7 of hearts, 7 of spades, 2 of diamonds. Pretty weak hand. But the bright side was we at least had a spade, which is all I really needed. Lilith and Laura stared at their own cards before playing another card. Another misplay. They're supposed to play after us. I could sock them with another penalty right here if I wanted to. No. Don't be a dick, yeah. Okay, let's calm down a bit here, Clyde. There's no real reason to give them a strike here. Sure, Lilith might be playing out of order, but what does it matter to me? It just means that I can play the better card. Besides, she's probably a bit on edge after everything that's happened. Let's take a deep breath and just do this the easy way. Alright, let's do this. What card did she end up playing? The 3 of hearts? Really? That's the card she plays? She's gotta have better cards than that, right? I guess she could have gotten a terrible hand that had like 2s and 3s only. Sheesh, talk about bad luck. We could play another and we could play anything and just win at this point. Richard pointed at the 7 of spades. Well, I guess that was as good a card as any to play right now. I played the card down on the table and then reached out to grab both cards, except Lilith grabbed them as well. Were we really going to do this again? I pointed my finger at the cards and then back at myself. Hopefully that'd be enough to show that we were the proper winners. But Lilith didn't relent. She just kept holding on to the cards as though she were the proper winner. Her other hand reached out toward the edge of the table, threatening to press the red button that was on the corner of her table. She smacked it against the edge multiple times, just barely missing the button. I guess that's about as much of a threat as any. Well, what do I do then? Do I back off and let her have this one, or do I take the cards as my own? I suppose we'll take this one. We've got one, she's got one, let's take this one. She'll probably beep the button, but who cares, we've done that as well. I won the hand, so these are my cards. I'm not going to let myself get bullied just because she thinks she deserves them. She should just be playing better. I fiercely pulled on the cards, nearly pulling Lilith's hand through the glass slot in the center of the table. Lilith rubbed her hand a few times while keeping her eyes fixed on me. That's fine, she could be a little angry, not the end of the world. Well, that was expected. I knew she'd give me a strike. But it was just one. And we were only one hand away from winning, so... Can she do that? Wait, can she do that? Can she just issue 3 strikes in a row? That's not fair. Oh, it looks like you accrued 3 strikes. Just like in baseball, that means you're out. What? But... Oh, now you're talking. It seems like a double out. One more out and you'll have to get off the field. Oh, I guess you're going to be off the field soon anyway. The living field. Is that a joke? You too, Richard. You're on the losing team after all. Ugh. But can they do that? Can they just give us 3 strikes like that? Sure, I don't see why not. But no buts, that's the way the game's played. If they press the button, it must be because they thought you cheated. You're telling me that just because they pressed the button, because they believed we cheated, whether or not we actually did. Belle simply winked before snapping her fingers. Yeah. I felt a wave of pain pulse across my body. My mind began to fray and my entire body was weakening. Why the fuck did you kill us? Laura was slow to open her mouth to respond. Lilith was quick to put her hand over her sister's mouth. Damn, I was hoping to get a little revenge, but as my strength left my body, I felt that maybe I was missing some important information. Was Lilith just angry and frustrated with me, or was there more to it? Well, no point worrying about it now. I could feel the cold embrace of death taking hold of me, and my mind floated in that familiar cold oblivion. 3 strikes and you're out. Alright. So let her take the cards? We're gonna get killed anyway. Fine, she can have the cards. I don't know why she's so insistent on having them. She didn't win, but I guess it's fine really, as long as we each end up with 3 1 hands, that's all that matters. So I'll just let her have this one. Maybe it'll put her at ease. I released my grip on the cards and let Lilith drag them back to her side of the table. She gave me a parting glare before moving the cards back to her end of the table. I guess it's better than giving us a strike. Suddenly Richard's eyes got wide and he gently poked my shoulder to get my attention. I wasn't sure exactly what he was trying to show me, but I figured that he must have come up with some wild idea. He was smiling. I don't know why he was smiling considering we were losing hands when we shouldn't have. But no point trying to send him a scowl. He clearly had some plan up his sleeve, and once Lilith and Laura drew their 3 cards and passed the deck along, he grabbed the deck and knocked down the glass to get Lilith and Laura's attention. Now that he had everyone's attention, he pointed toward the deck and began to search through it. This made Lilith scowl for a second, but it eventually softened as he began to place a few cards on the table. The first was the 10 of clubs and 9 of clubs. He pointed toward the cards. Laura and Lilith both looked at them before pointing toward the 9 of clubs. Richard nodded his head and turned to me, tapping his fingers on the table. Was he asking which card he thinks would win the hand? Well, from what we know, it should be the 10 of clubs. I tapped my finger on the 10 of clubs and then looked back up. Both Lilith and Laura raised their eyebrows in confusion. Richard nodded his head again, pointed to himself and to me, and then tapped the 10 of clubs again. Lilith seemed to be deep in thought, while Laura simply scratched her temple with her finger. What was going on? If only I could verbally ask what everyone thought, this would all make more sense. Still, it seemed Richard's demonstration wasn't done yet. He placed 3 more cards down on the table and organised the cards out once again. The 10 of clubs, 10 of hearts, 10 of spades and 10 of diamonds. Again he tapped on the table and pointed towards Lilith and Laura. Laura pointed right for the 10 of hearts. Then Richard pointed to me. Just like last time, I pointed toward the 10 of spades since I figured that would be the card that would win the hand. Richard seemed pleased with himself as he shuffled the cards back into the deck and drew 2 cards. This time, however, he kept them face down at first. First he flipped over 1 card, the Queen of Clubs, then he flipped over the second card, the Queen of Diamonds. And just like before, he prompted Lilith and Laura to pick which card would win. Lilith paused for a moment, then pointed toward the Queen of Clubs. She looked expectantly at me and then back at Richard. I'm guessing this is some test to show what happens when 2 cards that aren't trump cards are played. And the answer should be the Queen of Diamonds. I pointed to the Queen of Diamonds once again. I was met with confusion from Laura and Lilith. Not really much of a surprise at this point. It seemed like we were playing 2 totally different games here based on what they picked. Wait a moment. These discrepancies in what the winning card is can't just be because we're remembering the rules wrong. It's too wild. There has to be another reason. Let's try thinking things over again. What was the first oddity about this game? Obviously Bell's instructions, or lack thereof. Oh, so it was about the team split then. Was it the way the teams were split? Oh, it's kind of hard to tell. It might have been luck, or Bell might have deliberately put Laura and Lilith in the same team. Still, wouldn't really sway the game the way that the game would go. No, there was something else right at the start that was a little odd. Was it the game type that was the first oddity? Yeah, it's supposed to be a 4-player dilemma game, yet Bell decided to split us into teams. If she wanted us to play a team game, then she would have set us up in a team game, right? Or rather, if the game was going to be a 4-player dilemma game, why'd she hand us a game with a set of teams? It's even slightly antagonistic with our ability to issue strikes against one another. But despite that, the game doesn't actually lead to one team winning over another. It's just an assumption someone might make after thinking about the rules of the game and its setup. After the game type, the next thing that comes to mind is... what's odd is Belle's instructions. They were surprisingly curt, and she gave most of the instructions and rules through the notes she left us. She claimed that she was setting the game up for us, but I find that hard to believe, especially considering how simple the game actually is. If that's the case, why bother giving us only a few instructions? Was she juggling between the 2 groups? Was there something else going on here? Almost there. I have to think a little further and I'll have it. It has to do with why Belle only gave us a few instructions, as well as why she split us into groups, despite the game not being a team game. She gave different rules for each team, obviously. That's it. That has to be it. That would explain the confusion that we've been having over the entire game. Phil deliberately split us up and then gave us each different instructions for the game and prevented us from talking out loud to sow confusion and chaos. Based on what Richard showed me, there were a few conflicts in instructions. The first is probably where the higher or lower value cards. From what I saw, they thought the lower value cards would win, while we thought the higher value ones would. Next was the trump cards. The trump card suit was hearts, while ours was spades. And finally, in the event of a tie, they believed that the player played first would win, while we thought the opposite. I'm guessing that Bell was hoping we'd get fed up with one another and eventually start issuing strikes just out of anger. Without any way to talk, we probably wouldn't have figured out this odd situation. Damn that Bell, she really doesn't mind bending her own rules to get these weird, chaotic outcomes. Technically, she mentioned that winning 3 hands is the only way to win, so I suppose the notes don't really count for official rules, or at least not all of them. If that's the case, then we really only need to worry about getting 3 hands each. Who cares about the results of the actual hands, as long as we agree on it anyway? I took a deep breath and then looked over to Richard, who seemed to be on the same page as me. Then I turned to Laura and Lilith, who seemed to have come to the same realization. So now the question was, how we're going to resolve this. Actually, that should be easy. We just need to give hands away or take them. It doesn't matter what the actual results are, as long as we agree to them. Laura's smile gave me hope that she would go along with the plan. Lilith, on the other hand, just seemed to sit idly and handed her cards over to her sister. It seemed she was fine with letting her take the lead. Maybe just because she seemed more trustworthy? Friendly? It was very easy to look at Laura and assume that she wouldn't betray you. She just had that graceful and friendly demeanour. Considering that Richard was the only one stopping me from acting harshly, I let him handle the cards. From there, play went much faster. Alright, we're going to wrap this one up here because we're out of time for today. But it looks like we're going to get through this one without anyone dying, which is exactly why we picked door number 3, isn't it? So, yay! 2 more games to go. Anyway, till then, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one, Bruce.